The warning. The war room of the Crimson Legion's flagship buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed star maps, tactical readouts, and intelligence reports floating above the central table. Commander Vexithon stood tall, his forearms crossed, as he studied the blue marble that appeared on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful, almost innocent, spinning slowly in the void of space. "Target analysis complete, Commander," reported Intelligence Officer Zarakith, her silver skin gleaming under the artificial lights. She was young for her position, ambitious, and eager to prove herself to the Crimson Legion's leadership. The Ikazo planet shows signs of advanced civilization, but their technology appears to be centuries behind our own. Vexthon nodded approvingly. The Crimson Legion had conquered 47 worlds in the past 2 centuries, expanding their empire across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Each conquest had been swift and decisive. The species they encountered were either too primitive to resist or too scattered to mount effective opposition. "Show me their capabilities," Vexthon commanded. The holographic display shifted, showing primitive rockets launching from Earth's surface. Satellites orbited the planet, but they were simple constructions of metal and electronics. The images showed cities filled with bipedal creatures going about their daily lives, completely unaware that death was approaching from the stars. "They call themselves humans," Zarakith continued. "They use chemical propulsion for space travel. Their fastest ships barely reach their own moon. They have nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten our shields. Their military technology uses projectile weapons and conventional explosives." The other officers in the war room laughed. Sub-Commander Rex Told, a veteran of 30 campaigns, shook his massive head. "Projectile weapons? What's next? Throwing rocks?" "Their ships are made of simple metals," added Weapons Master Jexnar. "Our plasma cannons could cut through their strongest armor like paper. This will be over in hours, not days." Vexthon felt the familiar thrill of an easy victory. The Crimson Legion prided itself on efficiency. They would arrive, demand surrender, and when it was inevitably refused, they would demonstrate their power by destroying a city or two. The humans would surrender, become part of the Legion's empire, and their resources would fuel further expansion. "Excellent," Vexthon said. "Prepare the fleet for Commander." The voice was old, gravelly, and carried the weight of authority that came from centuries of experience. Every officer in the room turned as Commander Krelvox entered. He was ancient, even by their long-lived species standards. His once brilliant purple skin had faded to a pale lavender, and scars from 100 battles marked his hide. He walked with a slight limp, a reminder of the siege of Korax Prime, where he had held the line against impossible odds. "Elder Krelvox," Vexthon said respectfully. Even the most ambitious commanders showed respect to the legendary warrior. "We were not expecting you." "I came as soon as I heard about your target," Krelvox said, his ancient eyes studying the image of Earth. "I've seen this before." "Seen what, Elder?" Zarakith asked. "Primitive bipeds on a blue world. Always blue worlds." Krelvox moved closer to the display, his scarred hands reaching out as if he could touch the planet. "They look harmless. Their technology seems centuries behind ours. Their weapons appear laughably primitive." The war room fell silent. Krelvox rarely spoke about his early campaigns, and when he did, wise commanders listened. "Tell us, Elder," Vexthon said. Krelvox was quiet for a long moment, lost in memories that stretched back 5 centuries. The first world was called Sigma Draconis IV. The inhabitants looked almost exactly like these humans. They had just learned to split the atom, barely reached their closest moon. We expected easy conquest. He paused, his eyes growing distant. We lost 3 dreadnoughts before we understood what we were facing. The survivors called them the Ghost Walkers. They didn't fight like civilized beings. They didn't follow the rules of warfare. They were patient, cunning, and absolutely ruthless. When cornered. "But Elder," Rex Told protested, "that was centuries ago. Our technology has advanced significantly since then." "Has it?" Krelvox asked. "Have we learned to think like predators instead of conquerors?" Have we learned to be patient, to study our enemies for decades before striking? Have we learned to fight dirty when honor fails us? The younger officers looked uncomfortable. The Crimson Legion's military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and advanced technology. They relied on their superior weapons and shields to win battles quickly and decisively. These humans, Krelvox continued, they evolved as persistence hunters. For millions of years they chased prey across vast distances, never giving up, never stopping until they brought down creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. They learned to cooperate, to plan, to adapt. Elder, with respect, Vexthon said carefully, we have observed their world for months. They show no signs of advanced technology. Their militaries fight each other with primitive weapons. They cannot even travel to their nearest star. Krelvox smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. That's exactly what the inhabitants of Sigma Draconis IV appeared to be doing when we first observed them. Right up until the moment they revealed that everything we had seen was carefully crafted deception, the war room's temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Zarakith pulled up additional intelligence reports, scanning them frantically. Elder, our deep space monitoring shows no signs of deception. Their radio transmissions are consistent with a developing civilization. Their technology matches what we observe. Of course it does, Krelvox said. The Ghost Walkers maintained perfect deception for decades. They let us see exactly what they wanted us to see while they prepared for war in the shadows. By the time we realized the truth, it was too late. Vexthon studied the old warrior's face. Krelvox had never lied to him, never exaggerated a threat. If he was concerned, there was good reason. What do you recommend, Elder? Leave them alone, Krelvox said simply. Find another world to conquer. There are thousands of systems with resources we need. Why risk everything on a world that might be more dangerous than it appears? The war room erupted in protests. Rex stepped forward, his massive frame towering over the ancient commander. Elder, with all due respect, you're letting old fears cloud your judgment. These humans are clearly primitive. We have overwhelming superiority in numbers, technology, and firepower. We cannot show weakness, added Jexanar. If word spreads that the Crimson Legion retreated from primitives without even trying to conquer them, every species in our empire will think they can resist us. Vexthon felt torn between respect for the Elder and the practical concerns of his officers. The Crimson Legion's power was built on reputation as much as actual strength. If they appeared weak, rebellions would spring up across their empire. Perhaps, Vexthon said carefully, we could proceed with caution, increase our reconnaissance, study their world more carefully before committing to full invasion. Krelvox shook his head sadly. By the time you learn the truth about humans, Commander, it will be too late to retreat. But I see the decision has already been made. He turned toward the door, then paused. When this ends badly, remember that I warned you. And when you're running for your life, remember that humans never give up the chase. After the Elder left, the war room felt different. Some of the confidence had drained away, replaced by an uncomfortable uncertainty. But the practical necessities remained unchanged. The Crimson Legion needed resources, needed new worlds to exploit, needed to maintain their reputation for invincibility. Continue with invasion preparations, Vexthon ordered. But increase security protocols. If there's even a small chance the Elder is right, I want us ready for surprises. As the officers dispersed to their duties, none of them noticed the subtle changes already taking place in the solar system they planned to invade. Deep space monitoring stations that had appeared to be simple communication satellites were quietly repositioning themselves. Ships that had seemed to be primitive cargo vessels were altering course with impossible precision. And on Earth itself, in hidden facilities buried deep underground, humans were making final preparations for a war they had been expecting for decades. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado mountains. She was a small woman with graying hair and tired eyes, but her mind was one of the sharpest in human history. As the director of the Xenological Defense Initiative, she had spent 20 years preparing for this moment. Status report, she said. to the technicians monitoring screens filled with data from across the solar system. Long-range sensors confirm alien fleet positioning at system's edge, reported Lieutenant Martinez. Configuration matches predicted invasion pattern from the Kepler 442 incident. Sarah nodded. 3 years ago, humanity had intercepted transmissions from an alien invasion of a distant system. The brutal efficiency of the attack had convinced Earth's leaders that first contact would not be peaceful. Since then, every resource had been poured into preparation. "Are our observers in position?" Sarah asked. "Yes, ma'am. Deep space monitoring confirms alien reconnaissance activities. They're studying our communications, military capabilities, and industrial capacity. Everything is proceeding according to Dr. Patel's deception protocols." Sarah smiled grimly. Dr. Rajesh Patel had been humanity's greatest strategic mind before his death 2 years ago. His final project had been the most elaborate deception in human history. For decades, humanity had carefully crafted the image of a divided, primitive species. Every piece of technology the aliens could observe had been deliberately chosen to suggest a civilization centuries behind their own. Meanwhile, in facilities hidden across the solar system, humanity had been building weapons and ships that incorporated principles beyond anything the aliens had ever encountered. They had studied captured alien technology from crashed probes, reverse-engineered their communication systems, and developed countermeasures for every weapon in the alien arsenal. "Captain Reeves," Sarah called to a tall man studying tactical displays. "Are our defensive positions ready?" Captain John Reeves was everything a military commander should be. Calm under pressure, brilliant tactically, and absolutely dedicated to protecting his species. He had spent 15 years preparing for this war, and every detail had been planned and rehearsed. "All stations report ready, Doctor," he replied. "The aliens are taking the bait perfectly. Their fleet is positioning exactly where we expected. When they make their move, we'll be ready." Sarah looked at the screens showing Earth from space. To alien observers, it appeared to be a normal world inhabited by a primitive species. They couldn't see the weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields, the defensive stations disguised as space debris, or the ships waiting in the shadows of moons and planets. Humanity had learned from every species the aliens had conquered. They had studied alien tactics, psychology, and weaknesses. Most importantly, they had learned that the key to defeating a superior enemy was patience, deception, and the willingness to fight with everything they had when the moment came. "Signal all stations," Sarah ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. The aliens have committed to their attack. Now we show them what humans do when someone threatens our home." In the depths of space, the Crimson Legion's fleet began moving toward Earth, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had no idea they were flying into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history, or that the primitive humans they planned to conquer had been ready for this war long before it began. The revelation. The Crimson Legion's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague of mechanical locusts. 200 ships of various sizes spread across space in a formation that had conquered dozens of worlds. At the center, Vexton's flagship, the Crimson Dawn, bristled with enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. "Full sensor sweep," Vexton ordered as he studied the tactical displays. "I want to know everything about their defenses before we proceed." "Sensors show minimal orbital installations," reported Zarakith. "A few communication satellites, some primitive space stations, no obvious weapons platforms or defensive systems." Vexathon nodded, but Krelvox's warning still echoed in his mind. "Begin long-range scans of their military installations on the surface. Look for anything unusual." The bridge crew worked efficiently, their instruments probing Earth's defenses. Everything appeared exactly as their intelligence had suggested. Primitive missile silos contained nuclear weapons that couldn't penetrate their shields. Military bases showed conventional aircraft and ground vehicles. Naval forces consisted of metal ships floating on water, using chemical explosives and projectile weapons. "Sir," called Communications Officer Thexidal, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet. They appear to be attempting communication." "Put it through," Vexthon ordered. The main screen flickered, showing a middle-aged human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. She looked calm, almost serene, as she gazed directly at the camera. Her voice was steady when she spoke. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We welcome you to our solar system and hope that our first contact can be peaceful and mutually beneficial." Several officers on the bridge laughed. The idea that primitives would attempt diplomacy with the Crimson Legion was absurd. Vexthon, however, found himself studying the human's face carefully. There was something in her eyes that didn't match her words, a depth of knowledge and preparation that seemed inconsistent with a primitive species making first contact. "Establish communication link," he ordered. The screen split, showing both the human diplomat and Vexthon. The human showed no sign of fear or surprise at his alien appearance, which was unusual. Most primitive species were terrified by their first sight of the Legion's warriors. "I am Commander Vexthon of the Crimson Legion," he announced in his most intimidating voice. "You will surrender your world immediately or we will take it by force. You have 1 solar rotation to comply." Dr. Chen smiled, and there was something unsettling about that smile. "Commander Vexthon, we appreciate your directness. However, we must respectfully decline your generous offer. Perhaps we could discuss alternative arrangements?" The bridge fell silent. In 2 centuries of conquest, no species had ever responded to surrender demands with such casual confidence. Even advanced civilizations showed fear when faced with the Legion's overwhelming force. "You do not understand," Vexthon said slowly. "We have 200 warships, each capable of destroying your largest cities. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to serve the Legion. Refuse, and we will reduce your world to ash." "Oh, we understand perfectly," Dr. Chen replied. "We've been studying your methods for quite some time. We know about Kepler 442, Tau Ceti, and Ross 128. We know how you operate, Commander. The question is, do you know how we operate?" A chill ran down Vexthon's spine. Those were classified operations, known only to the highest levels of Legion. Command. How could these primitives possibly have that information? "Sir," Zarakith whispered urgently, "we're detecting some kind of energy signature from their planet. It's faint, but it doesn't match any known primitive technology." Before Vexthon could respond, the space around Earth began to change. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with objects that materialized as if they had been invisible moments before. Weapons platforms, defensive stations, and ships unlike anything in Legion databases appeared throughout the solar system. "What is this?" Rextold demanded. Dr. Chen's smile widened. "This, Commander, is what humans call a surprise party, though I suspect you won't enjoy it as much as we will." On the screen behind her, Vexthon could see what appeared to be a massive command center filled with sophisticated technology. The walls displayed tactical information that showed the Legion fleet's exact positions, weapon capabilities, and weak points. "Impossible," breathed Weapons Master Jexnar. "How did they hide all of this from our sensors?" "The same way we've hidden our true capabilities for decades," Dr. Chen replied calmly. "You see, Commander, we knew you were coming long before you. Knew we existed. We've been preparing for this war for 20 years. Captain John Reeves appeared beside Dr. Chen on the screen. His uniform was clearly military, and his eyes held the hard edge of a professional warrior. "Commander Vexthon, I'm Captain Reeves of the Earth Defense Force. I need to inform you that your fleet is currently targeted by 847 different weapon systems. Some of them are technologies you've never encountered before." Vexthon's tactical officer was frantically working at his station. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Whatever they're powering up, it's beyond our ability to analyze." "You're bluffing," Vexthon declared, but his voice lacked conviction. "Our intelligence showed a primitive civilization. You cannot have advanced this far without us detecting it." Dr. Chen stood up, and the camera pulled back to show the full command center. It was enormous, filled with hundreds of personnel operating, technology that looked decades ahead of anything the Legion had encountered. "Commander, let me tell you a story," she said. 23 years ago, one of your scout probes malfunctioned and crashed in our Pacific Ocean. We recovered it, studied it, and learned that we were not alone in the universe. More importantly, we learned that someone out there had technology far beyond our own. The implications hit Vexthon like a physical blow. If they had recovered Legion technology decades ago, they could have reverse-engineered it, improved upon it, prepared specifically for Legion tactics. From that moment, Dr. Chen continued, every resource on our planet was dedicated to preparing for your arrival. We studied your empire, your methods, your weaknesses. We let you see exactly what you expected to see while we built something you never expected to face. Captain Reeves stepped forward. We know your shields can stop nuclear weapons, so we built quantum disruptors. We know your armor can deflect energy weapons, so we developed gravitational shears. We know your ships are fast, so we created interdiction fields that can lock down entire fleets. This is impossible, Zarakith protested. No species develops technology this quickly. Most species don't face extinction, Dr. Chen replied. When humans are threatened, we do whatever it takes to survive. We cooperate like no other species you've encountered. We share knowledge, resources, and sacrifice everything for the survival of our species. On the tactical display, Vexthon could see his fleet situation becoming clearer. They were surrounded by weapons platforms that had appeared from nowhere. Energy readings were off the scale. Whatever the humans had built, it was powerful enough to threaten even Legion dreadnoughts. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender demands from 12 different human command centers. They're offering us safe passage out of the system if we leave immediately. The irony was not lost on Vexthon. The hunters had become the hunted. Commander, Dr. Chen said, her voice taking on a harder edge. I want you to understand something about humans. We are persistence hunters. For millions of years, we chased prey across vast distances until we brought it down. We never give up. We never stop. And when something threatens our home, we become something you've never encountered before. Captain Reeves added, your elder Krelvox tried to warn you. He understood what you were facing because he had encountered our cousins before. Species like us don't surrender, Commander. We fight until we win or until there's nothing left to fight with. What do you want? Vexthon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We want you to leave, Dr. Chen said simply. Turn your fleet around, go back to your empire, and never return. In exchange, we'll let you live to tell others what you found here. And if we refuse? The screens throughout the human command center lit up with targeting solutions. Every ship in the Legion fleet was bracketed by multiple weapon systems. Energy signatures spiked as the human weapons powered up to full charge. Then you'll discover why every predator species that has ever encountered humans has either learned to coexist with us or has gone extinct, Captain Reeves said coldly. Vexthon looked around his bridge. His officers were studying their instruments, with growing alarm. Whatever the humans had built, it was registering power levels that exceeded Legion technology by orders of magnitude. Sir, Zarakith whispered, recommend immediate withdrawal. We are severely outgunned. For the first time in his career, Commander Vexthon of the Crimson Legion found himself in the position of considering retreat. The species he had planned to conquer in hours had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous enemy the Legion had ever faced. Dr. Chen, he said slowly, you said you've been studying our empire. What exactly do you know? We know about the rebellion brewing in the Vega sector, she replied. We know about the resource shortages in your core systems. We know about the political tensions between your military and civilian leadership. We know that the Crimson Legion is not as invincible as you pretend to be. The truth hit Vexthon like a physical blow. If humans had been monitoring Legion communications for decades, they would know about every weakness, every internal problem, every strategic vulnerability. We also know, Captain Reeves added, that your empire has enemies who would pay very well for detailed intelligence about Legion capabilities and weaknesses. The question is, do you want us as enemies or allies? Dr. Chen stepped forward, her expression becoming diplomatic once again. Commander, humans don't actually want war. We want to be left alone to develop in peace. But we will defend ourselves, with everything we have if threatened. You have a choice to make. Vexthon looked at his tactical displays one more time. His fleet was surrounded, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. The humans had turned his planned quick conquest into a carefully orchestrated trap. All ships, he ordered quietly, prepare for withdrawal. Sir, Rex protested, we cannot retreat from primitives. These are not primitives, Vexthon replied. These are the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy, and we just walked into their territory. As the Crimson Legion fleet began its withdrawal from the solar system, Dr. Chen's final words echoed across space. Commander Vexthon, please give your Elder Krelvox our regards. Tell him that humans remember our friends and never forget our enemies. The choice of which category the Crimson Legion falls into is entirely up to you. The massive alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system as they had found it, peaceful, blue, and deceptively harmless. But word would spread throughout the galaxy about the species that had turned the hunters into the hunted, and no empire would ever again make the mistake of underestimating humanity. In the depths of space, other alien civilizations received the message loud and clear. When it comes to humans, the only winning move is not to play.